Hey everyone, it's Sunday and time for a new episode of Record Collecting with the Quill. Theme for today, raiding Lund again. If you've been following this channel, you remember that last year I sent off my daughter to university in the southern parts of Sweden in a town called Lund. And I found some great records there. Well, yesterday it was time again, leaving her off for a second year of university. And of course, I found the time to visit some local record stores and some thrift stores as well, and found some cool stuff. So I thought I'll share a little bit what I found. But before we start, you know the drill. Make sure you subscribe and hit that little notice bell as well. Starting out, I found a bunch of really cheap CDs and some singles and tons of cool vinyl records. But I think I'll start out with the CDs and sort of run them over quickly. Government Mule, The Deep End, great album. I've been listening to this a lot. Streaming is a great album, a great band. So I will enjoy listening to that one. This one is a really cheap one. You can usually find a really cheap, and this one, I think it was €1. The Lonely Boys. Behind the name is Per Gessle, the guitarist, vocalist, and main songwriter in Roxette, and also Nils Hellberg, famous guitarist, vocalist, and songwriter in another Swedish band called Wilmer X. They made this one album. I believe it was not really a commercial success because you can find the album everywhere. But it's some great songs, two great songwriters collaborating, and it's sort of power pop 60s. Some really cool stuff. Another one, this is a guy that I'm totally aware of, Jackson Browne, but I haven't really got into his catalog. And I found this one really cheap. It's his second album, For Every Man. And I guess I will probably start digging into his sort of catalog, starting with this one. Really looking forward to it. The stuff I hear from him is always great, so good starting point, I guess. And two cheap Dylan albums. I found this one, Oh Mercy, Bob Dylan. I have this on vinyl already, but good to have a CD version to listen to in the car. And also this one, the live 1966 from Royal Albert Hall, the famous Judas concert. Talk about a historical concert, if there ever was one. Also, I found 3 singles. I have this idea. I'm sort of have started collecting. I'm a sucker for good pop songs and good pop singles, and I have this idea to sort of buy a traveling gramophone, sort of a portable gramophone that you can bring whenever you have a party or in the garden, and have a good selection of my favorite pop singles and stuff you usually find really cheap. So I've been starting adding stuff to that part of my collection, and just, as I said, good pop singles. Starting out with this one, Roxette, Church of Your Heart. I always enjoy that song. I think it's one of their best ones. Really catchy. It's sort of, if you're into, you can clearly hear Per Gessle's Tom Petty influences on this one. Great track. Talking about great tracks, next one, Prince, Paisley Park, with a great B-side, She's Always in My Hair. A really cool cover as well. Will fit perfectly in that box of great pop singles. And also this one, Steve Lucather. I remember listening a lot to this solo album when it came out, and it had this typical 80s power ballad called Lonely Beat of My Heart that we used to listen to. So it was €1, and something that will fit nicely in a collection of great sort of songs you can shout along to whenever you had a beer or two. Now, the real stuff, the albums. I found quite a lot of cool stuff, and quite diverse as well. Starting out with 2 albums by The Babies, Head First and Union Jacks, I believe this one is called. I don't have my glasses. Their second and third album, I believe. Jonathan Cain from Journey, and also John Wade on vocals. And this one I've listened to quite a lot. I think I have the CD. Great album. They get some great songwriting on these 2 albums, so it will be great listening to them. This one I found really cheap. I think it was €2 in a thrift store. Rick Springfield, Living in Oz. Human Touch is a really cool song. At least I haven't heard the rest of the album, but it would be cool to listen to. Some Dylan as well on vinyl. I was missing this one, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, the famous Knocking on Heaven's Door album. and this is, I believe, is an early pressing as well, not an original one, but a reshoot from the late 70s, I believe. This one I know nothing about, but I'm a big fan of the guy, so it will be interesting to listen to this one. Paul Rodgers from Free and Bad Company is his first solo album, I believe, called Cut Loose, released early in the 80s. He's playing all the instruments. I have no idea if it's good or bad, so I'll get back to you with that one, but he's a good singer, so it's bound to be some good stuff, and a good songwriter as well, so I guess there must be some good stuff on it. But a cool finding, and it was cheap as well. This is one guy I've been listening to a lot lately as well, Roy Buchanan, the guitarist. The Street Called Straight. This one, I think I have like 3 or 4 of his albums. Great guitarist, and I think this one, The Messiah Will Come Again, one of his most famous tracks on this one. Cool guitarist. And this is one I had to look it up when I was in the record store, because I thought I had it on vinyl, but apparently I didn't. The second Johnny Winter album, Second Winter, as I found out, I only had the CD version, so this was a nice, also an early pressing of that great, his second solo album. Also been listening to, this mainly go out to you Swedes, but I've been listening to a lot of Elkvarn. This is a Swedish band, an institution in the Swedish music scene. They've been around since the late 70s and released tons of good albums in Swedish. But sort of, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen, and you have sort of classic rock, I guess you could say. Great songwriting. So I've been buying, you can find most of their albums quite cheap, so I've been buying them one by one. This one is called Utanför Lagen, and then you also have this one, Karusellkvällar, Carousel Nights. This one actually came in when it was in the record store. That someone came in and sold it to the owner, and he put a price on it immediately, and I picked it up. A really cool soundtrack version of Easy Rider. I think I mentioned this one before when I did the soundtrack episode, but this was a really, I believe, early pressing. I haven't had the time to check it out if this first pressing or what, but really nice shape as well. And from Easy Rider, it's a long step to these guys, Twisted Sister Rough Cuts. Some early recordings of some of my favorite songs. Shoot 'Em Down, I think, is probably the best Twisted Sister song ever. And this is a early release. I believe it was a UK pressing. It came out around the time of their first album, so it's just an EP, it's 4 songs. What You Don't Know, Shoot 'Em Down, Under the Blade, and Leader of the Pack. Also, I think this one was €10, so it was worth buying. Then the 2 records that sort of I had a little bit of a heartache about. This is the Bruce Springsteen bootleg called Alpine Valley, and it's actually 2 discs. It's Volume 1 and Volume 2, and I already had Volume 2 in my collection, and I've been searching for Volume 1 for quite some time, and they had this one in one of the record stores, and I asked if I could just buy the Volume 1, the one I was missing, but they didn't want to split the set, so I was sort of debating with myself, should I buy them both, and of course I did. You never know, it would have been typical if I hadn't bought it. I'm pretty sure it would have been one of those albums I would have been looking for 10 years and never found it. So now I have extra copy of the, I think it's the Volume 2 set. That I will probably, knowing myself, will probably just be sitting in the shelf, or maybe if I find the time I'll try to sell it, or if you're interested, let me know. And then the one album I was super pleased to find, and was quite cheap, and I'm really glad I got it. And I've been really lucky in Lund with finding good bootleg albums, especially by Bruce Springsteen and this band, Led Zeppelin. And this is a great bootleg album from Seattle, 1973, and I've been trying to collect all those classical, both Springsteen and Led Zeppelin bootlegs. A new addition to my collection. I haven't had the time to listen to it. I don't know. I think it's supposed to have a pretty good. It's a pretty good recording. Anyway, we'll see. That's what I love about these bootlegs recording. It's part of the thing that, as I said, that I love. That you never know how the sound is. Is it good or is it bad? Or usually after a couple of minutes you get into it either way. So this one is called VHV2, I believe. So those were my picks, the records I found rating Lund Again. And I have a lot of listening to or catching up to do, so I will sort of leave you now, because I have to listen to all this stuff and see what stuff is good and what stuff is... all the stuff is good, I'm pretty sure. That's it for now. Make sure you follow us on social media. It's the QUILL Sweden, and I'll see you all again next week with a new subject. That's it for now. Cheers, bye.